Welcome to All In for Estacada Schools. We'll be taking an in-depth look into the work, the data, the wins, and the fun. It's happening every day in the Estacada School District. And now, your host, Superintendent Ryan Carpenter.
Happy Thursday. It is mid-70 degree in Estacada. The sunshine is out. I hope that you're having the opportunity to enjoy this beautiful weather in the great community of the Estacada School District. My name is Ryan Carpenter, and I proudly serve as your superintendent. I know that because the weather is good, I imagine our turnout might be a little bit smaller today, and so I am hoping as people come in from this beautiful day, they'll have the opportunity to tune in to this very important communication later this evening. We are going to be making adjustments as the weather gets better and as outdoor sports and youth sports goes later into the evening. In our next All In Live, we will be moving this to 7 o'clock p.m. to accommodate those families coming home from work and accommodate our families who are outside right now supporting our community in so many different ways. Today's a great big All-In Live. We're going to be focused on ESSER funding. We're going to be looking at our budget as we come to a conclusion of a 2021-22 school year and how we think our ship is going to land. We're going to talk a little bit about the turf field and its update and some of the major improvements we need to now make to our high school main gymnasium thanks to a water main break over spring break. So hang in there with me. Let's dive all in and let's get right to that question of the day.
We've heard rumors that you, or someone who looks like you, is coaching youth baseball. Is it you?
Oh, man. You caught me there. That is true. I am a youth baseball coach this year with the Estacada Youth Baseball and Softball Organization. I am a part of a great coaching staff and a great group of kids at the 5th and 6th grade level. Baseball is truly actually the love of my life. I got into public education because of baseball. I played college baseball and was a head varsity baseball coach in John Day, Oregon before moving to Estacada. And I was the head baseball coach for the Estacada High School Rangers for about 5 years before I became an athletic director, high school principal, and now superintendent. So I love the game of baseball. Baseball is a great way for me to give back to my community and educate kids who are excited and enthusiastic about baseball. And so, yes, that is me out there. If you do see me out there, feel free to honk, wave, and even give your suggestions about the school district. But I just enjoy being out there with my own children and my Estacada children as we develop and learn life lessons through the beautiful game of baseball. So that is me out there. Thank you for asking that question. Let's go into hot topics. Here we go. So I'm starting to get a few emails, and when I mean a few, I mean like 4 emails in my inbox over the last couple of days. And the emails pretty much say this: Mr. Carpenter, I was watching on Fox News the other day, or my local news channel, and I see that the federal government has distributed really billions of dollars to public education through the pandemic. In the news article, it states that only half of the money that's been allocated to school districts has been spent. What is the Estacada School District doing with all of this federal money that it's received? I really wanted to just use this opportunity to kind of get in front of what I think a news narrative is going to be as it comes through. And I just wanted to share with you transparently, openly, and honestly to tell you exactly what the Estacada School District has budgeted, has already spent, and is planning to spend when it comes to the federal COVID relief, or we call it ESSER, fund dollars. So right now, the Estacada School District has received or is allocated $2.2 million of that federal ESSER money. So when you hear Fox News or other national news organizations talk about billions of dollars, at the end of the day, as that trickled from Washington, D.C. to the state of Oregon to the Estacada School District, that ultimately led to $2.2 million in federal funds. I will tell you that these federal funds were extremely helpful and continue to be helpful to our school district as we plan forward, as we emerge beyond this pandemic. I did want to share with you that you can see here that what we have spent so far to date of this $2.2 million is we purchased 3 portable buildings at $567,000. We purchased a district generator for $20,000, and this generator connects to our servers. And so even when the power goes out in Estacada now, we have a dedicated backup generator to make sure that our internet can stay up and running in the need of an emergency and or the ability to serve and support our kids even without power. We've spent $838 on masks and other PPE, personal protective equipment, through the pandemic. We also spent $138,000 making sure and upgrading the safety and access control to the remainder of our buildings. So you might see at the high school a few years ago, we made an investment into our school to make sure that everything was key card access. And so employees, community members who have access were able to just swipe their card and gain entry into the building. It also allows us now to just push a button in event of a lockdown, and we can close all of our exterior doors with just one single push of the button. Very critical, especially for the high school that has really double-digit figures of exterior doors. During the pandemic and through this money, we were able to allocate this ESSER funds to the safety security upgrades of our schools, and so now each and every one of our school buildings has key card access, and we can lock all of our buildings down in the stroke of a button. So a very good investment and upgrade for our community without using general fund dollars. We also spent $76,000 on certified nursing assistants in all of our schools, CNAs. So obviously, as we were emerging through this pandemic, we needed more health experts on campus to test kids for COVID, to quarantine and isolate kids for COVID, and just to be able to work with our general population through the ins and outs, ebbs and flows, quarantines and isolations of the pandemic. This was money very well spent. We did not utilize this addition out of general fund. This was through our ESSER funds. We also spent $28,000 on our reading intervention program. So really to this point, in rough math, we've spent a little over $1.2 million of that $2.2 million generated in ESSER funds. It's important to note, though, that the ESSER funds is really allowed to be spent over the course of the next 3 years. So as you hear national news organizations say schools have only spent half or have only used a little bit of the dedicated ESSER funds, I think that could potentially be skewed in a false way or in a false narrative, only because even though we're getting 2.2 and we've spent 1.1 in year 1 of these ESSER funds, we're trying not to, as the saying goes, we're trying not to spend it all in one place. The budget that we have for this $2.2 million, we hope to carry out over the next 3 years. So we did invest in the safety, security, and capacity of our school district as we grow more in enrollment. This was an opportunity for us to leverage these funds to support the capacity of growth inside our school district without tapping into general fund dollars or asking our community to pass a bond. So we were able to quickly address some of our growth and capacity needs, as well as our safety needs. But we also have plans to carry out some of the services that the ESSER funds have provided over the course of 3 years. So you can see that over the course of the next 2 years, we want to continue our certified nursing assistant support in each and every single one of our schools. So as we emerge from the pandemic, we now have people in place to help with kids who are feeling sick, who got hurt at recess, who need a bag of ice. This was usually the job of our building secretaries. They can do more towards supporting their principals and their classroom teachers, and we can support those needs through certified nurses assistance. We also plan to utilize some of these funds towards summer school, home internet connectivity, and making sure that our kids have access if they do need to learn remotely for various reasons in today's world, and then continue to make upgrades and fixes and changes to our access control and safety upgrade. And then we do have $60,000 still earmarked for PPE. Now, some of these things will change a little bit as reality comes our way, but I'm very proud of our school district that we were able to utilize the funds given to us to not only work through the pandemic, but also set us up to be successful in the long-term future of the Estacada School District. So I hope that this is helpful information to you. So as you hear a news narrative of, the schools got all of this money from the federal government and they're only using a little bit, I hope you at least understand and know exactly how much the Estacada School District received, what it has spent its ESSER fund dollars on, and our plan to spend the remainder on it over the course of the next 2 years to keep some of the services, safety, and other programs going as we're allowed to spend this. So we spent a lot of it, but we did not spend it all in one place. So it's true, we've only spent half of our ESSER funds to date, but we have plans to spend the remainder of it over the course of the next 2 years. And so I hope that helps. We will get to questions here in just a little bit, so I do hope that you'll start typing in your questions and comments. I very much look forward to asking for them, but I do want to keep going a little bit because I think this is a great opportunity for us to truly transition into, we have all of this uncertainty and unknown. Inflation is somewhere around 6%, 7%. We're hearing that all over in every news channel that we're a part of right now. The war in Ukraine is creating uncertainty in economics. We still haven't seen the aftermath of all of government support as that starts to be weaned off of our public and out of the economy. What does that look like in terms of the up and down of our economy? Obviously, diesel prices are very expensive, and as you think about what the cost of diesel is right now in comparison with the 19 buses and transportation pieces that we run around a 750 square mile district, really 4 times a day, twice for elementary and twice for secondary, those fuel costs obviously play a significant role in our budget and finances. And so I just wanted to share with you very quickly that the Estacada School District is doing very well financially. We are very focused on being great stewards of taxpayer funds. And right now we project that at the end of this school year, and this is just a projection subject to change for various factors, but right now we project to end our school year with $5.58 million in our end fund balance, or roughly 17% of our overall budget. I do want to share with you because I'm sure some people would be like, well, this is taxpayer funds. Why aren't you spending every dollar of it? And I know some of you are also saying, wow, that's way too much spending. You need to save more. And I get both sides of it, but I do want to explain what end fund balance means. In all school districts, schools are expected to keep an end fund balance. Most of the experts out there in the world recommend that school districts try to save between 5% and 15% in their end fund balance. And that is ultimately what tells you what a school district's financial health is. So I'm telling you we project to be around 17%, which should tell you that the Estacada School District is doing financially healthy. What does 5 to 15% represent? It's important to know that as well. Think about it from this perspective. 5% to 15%, more like 15% for the Estacada School District, we try to save enough to pay all of our bills and all of our employees for 2 months. So if the state of Oregon were to crash, or if funding from the state or from the taxpayer sources were to run out or eliminate for any way, shape, or form, school districts are recommended to be able to have 2 months worth of total expenditures and costs to be able to dish out for emergency purposes. For Estacada School, that's around 15%. It's really around 13% is where we want to be. For school districts like Portland Public, that's more like 5% because they're a $1 billion school district, so 5% might pay more for their expenditures, where we're a smaller $30 million school district, and so we want to be closer to around 15%. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense to you as I talk about the financial health and how we project. The reason why I share this with you or build this framework is because on paper, and by the way, in reality, the Estacada School District is doing very well financially. And I'm proud that we have been fiscally responsible through this pandemic, and we're going to emerge very strong because of it. But I do also want to point out that even though we have this money here, it's ultimately one-time money that has been infused through federal support and some new taxations like the cat tax that has created this influx. I wanted to share a graphic with you because it does appear that over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, all school districts in the state of Oregon are going to be reaching what they're calling a potential financial cliff. And so if you can see this graphic that's up on your screen right now, you can see that the K-12 revenue trend is going to continue to increase, right? More people are going to be paying into things in Oregon, and so the expectation is going to be there. However, and just what it costs to run education is going to continue to escalate, especially in cost of living and all of the other increases, just like you're experiencing as well. Thankfully, during the pandemic, you can see this graphic where federal dollars has kind of filled the gap between what Oregon pays public school districts versus the need to offer a full, robust, complete, and comprehensive educational experience for its kids. And so as the year 2023, which is the end of when ESSER ends, when we're allowed to spend that $2.2 million to Estacada, as that funding from the federal government now goes away, you're going to see a steep decline in the money that the Estacada School District has, or that school districts, it's not just an Estacada problem, school districts around the state of Oregon, there's going to be a hard dose of reality in terms of the money we actually have that comes annually from taxpayers that's not supported with that federal money to help support us through this process. And so it is important to share with you that we are doing well. Part of the reason why we're doing so well is because of the federal support that we've received through this crisis, and that's going to come to an end soon. I share this with you because life is good and things are going well for us, but we also know that we need to take care of and invest in our employees. Right now, we're just getting started with contract negotiations with Estacada School District teachers, with Estacada School District drivers, cooks, custodians, paraeducators, and secretaries. They're their own group. And then we're also going to start negotiations with our building principals, district leaders, and district directors. And so as we talk contractually about cost of living, cost of inflation, but also the Estacada School District desires to be a best place to work and a desired workplace for our employees, both who live in Estacada and who commute to Estacada from the outside areas. We want to be competitive in wage. We want to make sure that our wage keeps our talent, and we determine what the talent is, but keeps our talent coming to the Estacada School District each and every day. And so we are in a position to be able to invest in our employees and make sure that our wage is livable, make sure that our wage is competitive, and is able to meet some of the market adjustments that are going to be created because of this inflation and just because of the increased cost of living. You can blame that increased cost of living on whichever you choose. At the end of the day, it's your superintendent and school board's responsibility to make sure that we're able to keep a great workforce and retain that workforce. And I'm pleased because our school district is set up in a position to be able to support that investment into our employees. And so I greatly look forward to our negotiations with each and every one of our employee union work groups as we have that conversation about what that looks like, while still being conservative and responsible with your taxpayer dollars. And so I hope this kind of helps, as this kind of talks about, again, ESSER funds that you may be hearing at the federal level, and you know now what the Estacada School District is doing about it. You have a better understanding about how we're doing financially and how we expect to land our big airplane as the school year comes closer to an end, and then also how we hope to engage with our workforce as we try to support the Estacada School District being an extremely competitive and livable wage. Before we get to questions, the last part that I want to conclude about this piece of this conversation is the 17% or the $5.58 million that we expect to end. That's not always renewing, right? That's just what we have in savings. And so, for example, if we were to invest $3 million into wages and salaries, we can really only afford, as you can see, to spend that once, right? So we would tap in to those end fund balance dollars, and we would be able to do that next year. But then that, when you talk about wages, that comes annually on a year-to-year basis, and we don't have the money necessarily to sustain that year over year because this is one-time money. And so as we think about the financial health of our school district, we also need to be looking into ways that we can utilize this money to spend on things that aren't necessarily reoccurring over and over and over again. And so I do hope that brings clarity to some of the challenges that the school district is facing with as we talk about how we invest our money to set ourselves up for success, how we invest in our employees, and then ultimately what exactly we're doing with your taxpayer dollars. I do hope to talk about turf and our gymnasium here just after this, but let me pause because I know this is deep. But hey, you're here with me because you're all in on the Estacada School District. So Maggie, what questions can I help support?
Thank you, Superintendent Carpenter. We have about 20 live viewers, and I want to thank all of you that are tuning in live. We've had a couple of comments that are supportive of the great explanation you gave on ESSER benefits, so appreciate you taking that time. And the one question we have coming in right now is about our gym floor. So I know you'll get to that shortly, and I'm sure we'll be able to take care of that question on what is going on with our gym floor and those pipes and what we plan to do with it.
Yeah, very good. The gym floor is not in good shape, and we'll get to that in really part 3 of this conversation. So I do want to give everyone a great turf field update. Very excited to talk about its growth and progress, and things are starting to move. Now, some of the conversations I am starting to hear out there, primarily from people who just need more explaining about why we're investing this money into our turf field, so it's completely understandable. But I would love your help because I can't explain why to each and every single person. And the more people who know our why about the turf field that we can share it with others, the more impactful and positive experience it will be as we celebrate the upgrade of this facility and playing service. So just a reminder, over the course of the last fall season, we had multiple games canceled because our football field and soccer field, it's the same thing, was deemed unsafe and unplayable, which was creating a negative impact for the experience of our high school and youth league kids who are coming through our system. And it was also a true safety concern. Now, we have known, and I say we, the community of Estacada, have known for a long time that Buzz Randall Stadium is an extremely special place with significant importance. The hedges, the retro feel of the stadium, the multiple generations of people who have gone through that stadium. That stadium is almost a rite of passage as you come through our school district, as you be a part of that stadium in multiple ways. You don't even have to play sports for that stadium to mean something to you as an Estacada Ranger. And so as these fields were becoming unplayable, it was costing us more and more dollars just to be able to get it to a playable level. And at the end of the day, our ability to limit the amount of times that field was being used was really impacting not only athletics, but our educational programs as well. It's important to remember that that facility is also a classroom. That's a place that can house high school and middle school physical education. It would encourage you to come join me one of these days from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock, because that is the outdoor cafeteria for all of our middle schools. A 70-degree day like today is a perfect day for our middle school kids to be able to go out and run around on that field and eat their lunch in the stadium. There's not a lot of space for our middle school kids to be able to get out and get the wiggles out and run around and stretch out. That's a very critical place for our middle school students. And it's also a vital place for our community. It's where we host the Easter egg hunt run by our community. We have a lot of church ceremonies during the Easter time and some other outdoor events. We also host and facilitate so many youth athletic opportunities, both soccer and football, inside that stadium as well. And so I do hear a lot like, hey, this classroom is that, or no air conditioning that, or whatever else. And I understand that there are so many priorities inside our school district. I could ramble off 40 priorities that need immediate attention right now inside our school district. But as we weighed the impact, the school board and I and our Estacada community team, as we weighed the impact, we made the decision to put some financial investment into upgrading this facility to make it safe, to make it consistent and dependable, and for allow it to be a greater classroom space inside our community. So at the completion of this turf project, you can expect that facility to be used 7 days a week, really until 7 or 8 o'clock at night p.m. There's going to be marching band practice on it, youth soccer, youth football, high school sports, and other big community events that are going to be a part of it 7 days a week. It will also, during the school day, become an improved classroom that can facilitate so many things. So please don't mistake this as lavish spending or doing something that is of extravagance. Having a workable stadium facility that can seat hundreds and 1,000-ish people inside of that, in a place that can foster our community doing activities, that is a need inside our community. And our school board and I have made the decision to invest inside that community. And so this is our priority, and it's getting started and underway right now. It's awesome. You can start to see some of the excavators coming in there. We've made construction entrances. There are so many things buried underneath this football field, up to and including an old track, a water main line, drainage tiles from when the place was built back in the 1920s. It's really quite impressive. I do need to give a shout out to so many community members who are donating and volunteering their time and money to offset the cost of this $2 million project. Our school board set the budget for the turf at $2 million. We have already significantly reduced that expenditures. I need to give credit, first of all, to S&W Underground. We had no idea that the main water line that came into the middle school went directly underneath that field, right at the 50-yard line, from Pierce Street all the way through the 50-yard line, right down the middle of that football field and into the middle school. This is a $70,000 project that S&W Underground, a great company that I recommend because they've been helpful to us, they are doing this whole project for free. And so we did not expect this $70,000 cost to incur. They are coming in there right now. They're moving the water main line and putting it down to grade in order for us to continue to have a brand new water main, which tends to break on us about every 6 months or so in some buildings. So we're upgrading our water facility here, all for donated costs. This is amazing. Something else that's amazing and deserves a shout out as well is we've received huge volunteerism from Wheeler Homes and Platt excavation and Green Up Logging. And we have to move, believe it or not, over 1,000 dump truck loads of dirt to get that football field and soccer field down to grade. So that's 5 feet of dirt that needs to go down in order to make that happen. Every single bit of this work is volunteered for free. So as you can imagine, like the orchestration of these community volunteers and their dump trucks and their excavators, they have it planned that they're filling a dump truck every 4 minutes as they move this 1,000 dump truck loads of dirt. Again, free to the district of in-kind donation and labor. We are so thankful for this. So the reason why I'm sharing this with you is I know that there's still going to be people who are going to very lazily, in a lazy fashion, point the finger at the school district of this extravagant expense. And yes, $2 million is a real investment, but we have already offset this $2 million project by roughly $500,000 to $600,000 just off the start. And we expect to continue to chip away at this so that we're doing this in a conservative fashion using our taxpayer funds. And I'm so proud of the work that's already occurring, and I'm so thankful to our community who has been willing to step up and answer the call to help us offset this. We've in fact saved so much money right now that we're starting to look at how can we improve the lighting. The lighting poles have been up there since the 1970s. Those of you who are familiar with the stadium know that when you turn it on, it's those old lights where you have to wait 30 minutes for the lights to like warm up before you can get the stadium safe and ready to play. There's been a couple occasions where we've lost power during Friday night football games or during soccer games, or maybe an errant juvenile kid hits the switch to be a prank and we have to stop the entire event for 30 minutes to get the lights going again. So this is a great opportunity for us to install new lights, which will also be more energy efficient, saving the school district money. I also want to thank the Estacada Community Foundation, who has donated $75,000 to help us install an upgraded and improved scoreboard on this facility as well. So you can see the positive momentum and community support is rolling. And so if you do come across people who just don't know what we're doing or why we're doing it, or are pointing the finger at spending that might be frivolous, please be sure to tell them that there is tremendous community support behind this. Our momentum continues to grow, and this is going to be a place that our kids, our future kids, and our community is going to be able to enjoy and celebrate for decades beyond us. And so this investment may not be as popular today, but it's going to change lives in the future. And I'm very excited to be a part of this project, and I hope that you will be too. Before we get into the gymnasium, I do just want to stop for a second because I want to honor these questions. This is supposed to be a two-way conversation. Maggie, has anything new come in?
Yeah, thank you, Superintendent Carpenter. We have 2 more questions at this time specifically about turf, and if you have any more questions, please put them in the comment section. Our first question is, as we talk about turf in the football field, do we have any plans to expand this turf, say to baseball infields, soccer fields? What are our thoughts there?
Yeah, that's a great question. As we all know, turf is extremely expensive. In a perfect world, in my dream for the Estacada School District, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, is we'll continue to chip away to try to make our facilities as much turf as possible. I do hope someday, in fact, I pray someday that our community will invest in its school district through a construction bond where we'll be able to really chip into being able to put artificial surface throughout that. It just cuts down on so much maintenance. It allows our facilities to be used really 12 months out of the year, and just puts a more professional and competitive face into our school district. And so, I know that turf is controversial, and I know that there's other things that we need to spend our money on, and we need to invest in our kids in our classrooms first. course, but I truly do believe that a turf field is a classroom and can be utilized as that. So it's a great question that takes me on a rabbit hole, because obviously I want our facilities to be great for our kids, and I want our kids to have the same experiences as other kids in other communities. But to do the turf things that we need to do, we need millions of dollars. And obviously we don't have that in our bank account. It would take a full community investment in this for that to happen. But we will keep chipping away at it. We're chipping away at the stadium first. We've got some other HVAC upgrades inside our schools, like air conditioning and climate control, that we need to tackle next. And the basketball court has been something that has now popped up and is forcing us to do something about it. So great question, and someday you will see an Estacada school district that has more opportunities for kids through better playing surfaces.
Thank you, Superintendent Carpenter. Our next and last question right now, unless someone chooses to submit some more questions, is a thoughtful one on some potential reports about cancer-causing agents in turf. So I'll speak to that briefly, because this is something that we did talk about as we made this careful decision. And there are some carcinogens that are known in the crumb that is in turf fields. However, the research so far has not shown a definitive link to cancer-causing agents with students. One thing that is reassuring to hear, though, is that the vendor that we selected, Field Turf, has already proactively started to change the ingredients that the turf fields have presented. So our turf field is cutting edge technology. One of the few benefits of being one of the last to get turf is we will get some brand new technology on our turf field. And we do know that research shows that just having a grass field presents some safety risks for our students as well, ACL, some joint issues. But that is something that we've looked into, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Superintendent Carpenter, if there's anything you'd like to add.
No, that's a great question, and thanks for being a watchful eye and making sure that what we are doing, it does really support the long-term health and safety of our kids. So I appreciate that. That is the answer. We're pretty confident that things are going to go well and healthy. But good job. Please keep looking out for things like that and making us aware of them so that we can continue to work together on that. That's fantastic. So the last piece I want to talk about is our high school gym floor. I'm sure you saw some pictures and some communications that came out through the district, but during spring break, we did have a main water line burst inside our main gym facility. This was a pretty slow leak that occurred, I think, on Saturday night, and so the leak went all the way through Sunday when we didn't have employees on campus. And as Sunday night came and some high school basketball players were doing their traditional Sunday night workouts, it was discovered. Our team, with emergency fashion, came down, hustled, stopped the leak, turned off the main, did everything we could to mitigate the damages. In fact, I had pictures by the end of that Sunday evening where all of the water had been completely cleaned up and mopped up. We had fans that were out there to try to dry the wood surface and just mitigate the damages as much as possible. Unfortunately, that's a wood floor from 1965. It had already exceeded its life capacity. We were told that we could no longer sand it down. And so, for those of you who have been connected to Estacada High School, it's been pretty well communicated that that gym floor was done, and we needed a new gym floor. And so the reason why I share that is because this water catastrophe was really its final straw. And I do want to say, for humor's sake, but also just for sentiment's sake, what a shameful way for this 1965 floor to go down. You think about how many generations of people played on that gym floor from 1965 until 2022. It's really quite impressive, the generations of people that went on that. I would have liked to replace that gym floor and have been able to celebrate that by, parceling out some of the wood to give to people who it meant the most to. Unfortunately, we're not going to be afforded that point as the gym floor has been completely damaged, and it is not salvageable in any ways. I encourage you to look at some of the pictures. I think you can go onto our YouTube news channel to see if you see the most recent news broadcast that we've done. You can see the waves that gym floor has created. So very sad and obviously extremely impactful to our PE classes as we try to finish out the school year with some of our PE units. It also is going to affect our spring and summer basketball programs as we try to develop a competitive boys and girls basketball program and volleyball program as the summer begins. We are on it, and we do plan to completely replace that gym floor. Thankfully, our insurance is going to cover the cost of replacing that gym floor. Our insurance, though, has told us that they are not going to cover the cost of the water pipes due to the 1960s wear and tear of the pipes. And so the district is going to have to utilize some of this end fund balance that I was sharing with you, our savings, in an effort to repair the water pipes that were damaged. And so that's unfortunate for us as we have to invest in this, but it's what we're supposed to do. It's what you would do to your house, and we have the savings to be able to manage through that. So we have just begun. We're in infant stages of working with a gym floor company. We're going to need to remove the gym floor. As you talk about health and safety from the last question, we are taking measurements right now, and it's not like tape measurements, like measurements for asbestos. We believe, since that was installed in 1965, that there's probably some asbestos underneath that, and so we'll need to mitigate how we remove that old gym floor to make sure that we're being safe for our kids and our employees as they come into our schools each and every single day. Again, we believe that that's going to be covered by our insurance, but it's still going to be a process that's going to take time. And then the bigger problem for me is I think about, here is an old, dark, dingy main gymnasium, which again is a community center for our school district. So the school board of directors and I kind of need to start drawing a line of how far do we want to go. We know the gym floor is taken care of. That's awesome. But to take the gym floor out, we're going to have to take the bleachers out. Is this a good time while they're out to replace our bleachers? Is this a good time to upgrade the lighting to be more energy efficient and to be brighter inside that classroom space and event space? Is this the time to open up the other side of the balcony, which is currently closed off right now, for other important uses? And do we want to open that gym up just a little bit? And so those are just only some of the examples of conversations that we need to have as a district, as well as a community, as what do you want that space to look like? The hood is open, and so what should we do and what should we continue to hold off on until we can truly get that community investment to make our schools the way that they should be for the year 2022 and beyond. So there's going to be more information to come on the gym floor. It really is disappointing that we have to be in this position. Again, I just want to reiterate that the way that we're set up from a school financial perspective, our job is to collect your taxpayers' dollars and invest it into our kids in classrooms. We don't have a ton of money to set aside and fix the millions, tens of millions of dollars of things that need to be fixed and upgraded inside this school district. And so at some point, folks, we are going to have a serious conversation about what you want your schools to look like and the type of experience you want your kids to be a part of as they engage in public education. And I'm going to continue to bring that up because that's my job, and it's my responsibility to make sure each and every kid is provided with the same type of experience of a kid from any other community. And other communities are passing bonds left and right, and they're our next door neighbors, and they have state-of-the-art facilities to educate our kids. I think we're getting there. I think we're getting closer to being at that spot as well, but I do want to continue to bring up that conversation because we will never be able to keep up with the money that we just collect on an annual basis to do the things we need to do to upgrade from a 1960s atmosphere to a 22nd century atmosphere, if that makes sense. So that is my gym floor update. I hope that was helpful, at least in the communication perspective. Excited to hear the comments, opinions, and questions from all 4 of these conversations. Maggie?
It looks like at this time we have a quiet crowd, so thank you for taking the time to answer the questions we got earlier. And as of 5:17 p.m., we have no more comments at this time, but welcome anyone to bring those comments in later if they're watching it this evening after the sun goes down.
Well, and absolutely fantastic. And again, the day is beautiful, so we know that there's people out just enjoying the day and experiencing life, and you should. We're so happy that spring is finally here, and we're having a great school year, and there's a lot to celebrate. I do hope if you're not watching this live that you do have the opportunity to type in your comments and ask your questions. Our communications team is really watching this channel 24/7, even though they're not supposed to, but we do want them to. They respond so quickly to your questions and your comments, so I encourage you to continue to participate even if you're not watching live. And as the weather gets better, we are going to change our times, and so 2 weeks from now we'll be back at 7:00 p.m. In our hopes to engage our families a little bit differently. As I close, I have to remind families we are doing our parent satisfaction survey right now. There's going to be a QR code on your screen. Please take a picture of it. If you have not taken our parent satisfaction survey, it is absolutely critical that we collect your voice so that we can improve our schools to meet your needs and for your kids' experience here in our school district. We care deeply about quality service to you, and it's through this voice and feedback is how we make our action plans and adjustments to support your voice. There are so many different things that we've done from the last parent satisfaction surveys up to and including completely transforming our calendar based on your voice. It is this survey that we draw the data from to make those adjustments. We want your fair, honest, and accurate opinion because that allows us to make the adjustments using data to meet the strategic vision and actions of your desired dreams for your school district. I'm Ryan Carpenter. I proudly serve as your superintendent. There are so many great things happening inside our school district right now. This could not be a better time to live inside the Estacada school districts. Have a beautiful Thursday, and thank you so much for your support.